Everyone wants answers, but the Jaguars have problems that require answers that can't be fixed overnight. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I am Tony Wiggins, and you are listening to Locked On Jaguars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. It is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Glad to have you guys join us here on a day that Jaguar fans are not very, very happy, and we will discuss some of those reasons why you're not happy and try to offer a little bit. I can't give you solutions. That's up to the team, but what I can do, I can be a coping mechanism for you to deal with and have a realistic outlook on what is to come for the Jaguars in the near future as well as in the not so distant. Well, I guess not so distant and near are the same types of future, but you know what I mean? The next year, beyond the whole future, that's what I'm talking about. I can do that because I've been covering this team for a couple of decades, and I'm kind of an expert, and so are some of y'all experts at trying to navigate our way through a lot of the things we see. But we appreciate you all making us your first listen. Thanks to the everydayers that join us wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you tap in to that location each and every day so you don't miss an episode like the one you're listening to now. That is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, let me give you a little bit of a roadmap and where we're going. I think y'all kind of know. At the end of the show, we'll talk about how you just got too much stuff to run from and to try to coach around. You can't duck that smoke. You got to get on it. The grind is going to be there. You can try to bypass it all you want. It's not going to work. Now, no rush to get to the quarterback. No pun intended, but it doesn't seem like anybody was in a rush or a hurry to sack the quarterback yesterday, and that is a bad issue that is also a long-term problem that must be fixed. We'll start with the trenches overall on offense and defense and why they are problematic at best. And what I mean at best is on a good day, everything goes your way. You could probably end up winning a game. But sometimes things can go exactly the way you hope they go, and then you can still fall short. For example, I'm going to do this. And this is not a peacock moment. This is a moment of I wish I were wrong type deal. This wasn't necessarily a prediction, but it was some things that needed to be discussed. And we started it last week on our crossover show that aired Thursday when I was talking to John Hickman about certain aspects of this football team. In fact, it's only 28 seconds. I'm going to let you hear exactly what I said last week to those that did not hear it. The Jaguars inherently want to get back to the run. I don't know if you saw the end of the Raiders game last week in overtime, but they ran the ball 8 out of 9 plays. They got it. They used up about 8 minutes of the clock, and they ran the ball and scored a touchdown in overtime. That's who they want to be. They want to play behind their offensive line, play behind their running game. And I know when you have a quarterback, especially one like we mentioned the contract that makes a lot of money, the first thing people say is, well, you got to turn him loose and let him be Superman. No, I think you have to insulate guys like that. All right, so we talked about the run. Some people might think that's a little drive-by shrapnel headed towards Trevor Lawrence. At this point, we're going to ease everybody's mind about who we think is wrong or who we think is most culpable or responsible for the Jaguars losing. I think we should be beyond that now. If you're not beyond it, I'm going to give you a reason here in a few minutes that's going to kind of put you beyond that, if you will. But that's what I said last week. And they came out and they appeared to be doing that. They were committed to it. They ran the ball. And remember now, early in the year, they weren't able to run the ball against Houston. And that was coming off of watching Houston on the prior Monday night, just 6 days earlier, get smoked in the running game by Tampa. And pretty much provided a little bit of a window or a nice picture or photograph for the Jaguars, because that's where Liam came from. They're still doing some similar things. And plus, he knows the personnel on that team. So then they came and they couldn't run because Houston said, no, we're not going to let you beat us that way. We're going to make you do what you don't want to do. And and that's a very, very key thing. Yesterday, the Jaguars kind of did commit to the run, and they were able to have a modicum of success, way more success than they had running the ball the first time. And then they got out to this big lead, the lead that I kind of predicted or said yesterday if they got out to the lead, it would really help them. This was me an hour before kickoff yesterday as it pertains to what the Jaguars need to do in order to beat the Houston Texans. Listen to this.
All right, less than an hour before kickoff, Jags and Houston. Here's what has to happen for them to win this game today. Get off to a fast start would help. Get up 10-0, put all of the pressure on Davis Mills as a backup quarterback. Take the fact that you would then have to be rushing for points. Take that off the board so that pass rush does not bother you with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Run the football effectively. Run it, run it, run it. No turnovers or dumb penalties getting behind the sticks. The Jaguars do those things, they should come out victorious. If, however, they don't do all of those things and it's a tight game, that's where the kicking game has to be better. Houston has a questionable kicking game. The Jaguars have Cam Little, who just broke his little slump. So that's what I have. We'll see you after the game. Locked on Jaguars, post-game, and Jaguar Squad Show.
All right, so some of that stuff did come true. I did do a post-game show. I did do the squad show with me, O'Brien, and Marquise Ogden. And they did get off to a 10-0 start. They had a minimum amount of penalties, and early on, not a lot of turnovers. And they lost. Can y'all believe it? They absolutely lost. And whose fault it is or whose fault it was, we're done arguing with that. We should be, because everybody that has an opinion on what the most important thing is, and I get on fans all the time for focusing on one thing, right? Just thinking it is just one thing or one person. It's not. It's a whole bunch of people. All of y'all are right today. And if all of y'all are right, I know everybody's wondering if we're all right. How can no one be wrong? Yeah, that's kind of the point. Here's what I said on the post-game show, the Locked On Jaguars post-game show last night, and this will describe it, and I'll explain it. I'm not beefing with nobody today. And the fact is that in one quarter, everyone that has an issue with the Jaguars or that prioritizes their weakness or prioritizes their blind spots, each and every one of y'all actually has a legitimate argument to be right, because it all came true right there in the fourth quarter of that game that they lost today to Houston. It's like a parlay, right? Like on FanDuel, our sponsor. You go to a parlay. Parlay is getting a whole bunch of things to show up at one time. The Jaguars had a parlay of misfunction all show up all in the fourth quarter, all at one time. Every single thing that people say is wrong with this team, and sometimes we frame it as the most wrong or the most egregious or the biggest issue. And then we have arguments over what that is. And I'm thinking like, nah, man, this is a thing that we got to attack it all at the same time. You're not, sometimes it's one at a time, but with an eye on the fact that every single thing matters for this team. There's no reason to argue today, because if you believe whatever, just leave it blank. If you believe that, if it showed up yesterday in the fourth quarter, it was one of the things that showed up in that game, and you believe it to be the biggest priority, then you are correct. And the person that believes something else is the biggest priority, they are correct. Because what this is a whole bunch of things married together, and everything has to have its own identity. And when it doesn't, and you run and you hide from the smoke, and I'm not talking about them running and hiding from it or them not trying to fix it. What I am saying is when you ignore it, when you see it, when you ignore the fact that Trevor Lawrence is as average as the day is long, when you ignore the fact in your commentary or in your thought process that while they did raise the floor of the locker room, the ceiling is still too low as far as the offensive line is concerned, that they have good pass rushers, they have good players at those positions, but the pass rush itself suffers. When you can acknowledge all of that and the fact that this team is just not talented enough or good enough, you are absolutely correct. Everybody's right. It's not one person, it's everybody. They could have got on that plane if they had kicked a 60-some-odd yard field goal and won that game, and Liam Cohen would still have issues to deal with. He'd just be dealing with them at 6-3 as opposed to 5-4. We'll discuss that and more as we get to segment 2 here on Locked On Jaguars.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Today's show is also brought to you and sponsored by Rippling. That's right. Let me explain something to you. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work better, but now the average company is buried in hundreds of apps that allow slow down times to your teams, and simply they just don't work. And that's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. I'll say it again. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. Jags lose a heartbreaker, 36-29 to the Houston Texans after they were up by 29 points. And you could see or hear the despondent reaction from Liam Cohen. He knew he let one get away. He knew they all let one get away. And whether we want to believe it or not, or address it or not, and this is the thing that I've always said about being too familiar with people with names that you like on the team. Liam did talk about the two bad plays, the sack by Trayvon Walker that was taken away because of contact with the head. He didn't make any. It's basically saying they said it was contact to the head, and you just can't do it anytime there's contact to the head. They're going to call that. He did make a reference to having the quarterback in your grasp and letting them get away. That was another play by Trayvon Walker. At least this was a dude who was making plays, and he didn't finish them, or he finished them in a way that led to a penalty. So it doesn't give him a mulligan. It does not at all. Those are things that need to be done. See, this is not about finding problems or blaming people. This is about solutions. Like even the best player on the field yesterday, Parker Washington, they wouldn't even been that far ahead without him on special teams and what he did in the passing game, catching another touchdown. Even he made a mistake late in the game when the Jaguars were trying to save and preserve time to put themselves in a situation to win the game. Parker Washington catches the ball where he needs to get out of bounds. He's clearly going to get out of bounds. He goes to get out of bounds. The first down marker is 10 inches in front of him, and he runs out of bounds behind the marker. They then have to do a quarterback sneak in order to get the first down so they can continue going. It didn't ultimately play a big part in the end of the game. It's still something that's very, very important. Even when you're playing your best, it's those little things, right? The little things. And if you tell me little things don't matter, if they get that 2-point conversion, then this game goes an entirely different way. The little things do matter. If Chuma Udoga doesn't move when the play is not even on his side, it matters. There's a penalty that knocks him way back out of field goal range with illegal use of hands to the face when they're trying to win the game. It does matter. All of these things matter. Any first down in the second half mainly in the fourth quarter, that they missed by just an inch, it matters because those are 3 more plays and the clock goes and it runs, and that's another minute off, and that makes them extremely desperate. It all matters, man, when you're trying to win or lose. And yesterday manifested itself. All of these things that could have gone wrong went wrong, and not one thing that could have gone right went right. And guess what happens? You lose the game. Trevor can't take a sack, even though he got the yards back on the scramble. Well, those are yards that he could have gotten on top of not taking the sack if he would have been scrambled in a different situation. So we can point out each thing. The bottom line is there are not enough people making plays. There are not enough people getting the job done. There are not enough people being the reason why this team wins, as opposed to not being the reason why this team wins. And that starts with the quarterback, number 16. Liam stood up there yesterday, man, and he didn't pull any punches because he said, we got to see why the pass rush isn't working and figure out who can help us get it done. You ain't going to do that until the offseason. And then there's going to be some hard decisions about that. Good football players? Yes. Complementary to each other? Maybe not. Maybe you got 2 dudes that are kind of like the same guy and you need another guy that's totally different. You can mix and match. Sometimes you can't have 2 lights out pass rushers because what that does is it creates a hole in your team when it's time for the run. So, yeah, Eric Armstead got moved back to the inside, plays better, leads the team in sacks. They can't stop the run. Devon Hamilton saved the day last week. The team still can't stop the run with him doing the thing that he is paid to do. Devin Lloyd comes back yesterday, flashes, has the quarterback in his sights, gets stiff-armed by a backup quarterback. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. We were just talking about you being defensive player of the year in the first month of the season. And somebody's going to make an excuse and say, well, Wiggins just got back. I don't care. It cannot happen. Just can't. In a game where that had so many ramifications that it was so important, you could have sent Houston to the pasture yesterday. We probably need to go to the pasture. We all need to see the pasture, but you could have sent them to the pasture yesterday and kept your 2-game distance with the Indianapolis Colts, who seem like a team that's for real and is going to run away with this. Because you can say they don't play anybody. Yeah, whatever. They won 8 games playing somebody, and they won those games convincingly, most of them. So that means that they didn't lose a 19-point lead. The Jaguars did. So they're doing something that the Jaguars aren't doing. The trenches on both sides of the line are the biggest problem. And we talked about that a little bit at the beginning, but that is I'm not going to say the main thing because I just said that there's a whole bunch of people that think the main thing is one thing. But what we can all agree on and kumbaya about today is we're not going to argue with any other position group about what is or what isn't wrong that we differ from. There's no need to prioritize anything. I can tell you this, you can't win without a line of scrimmage that can knock people off the ball. I don't care what level. I don't care who your quarterback is. I don't care about your skill position players. If you cannot win the line of scrimmage in football, you will lose. And the Jaguars weren't necessarily winning the line of scrimmage yesterday. They were just making plays in special teams and on defense, and they were able to get up to a lead that they relinquished. Once all the smoke cleared, I can guarantee you the Texans coaches told them, if y'all get out of your own way, we'll run them out of this building. Even when the Jaguars were up 29-10, at some point there had to be a little bit of a feeling on the inside of the Houston Texans that all of their problems were self-inflicted and things that they were doing to themselves, and the Jaguars were opportunistic. And luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? All of those things were going. I guarantee it was a little bit of like, dog, if y'all just stop tripping, we'll beat the hell out of them. And that's exactly what they did in the fourth quarter. 26 consecutive points. The Jaguars could barely get a first down, and they lost. That's because of everything reared its ugly head right there in the fourth quarter. Wasn't a good look for the Jaguars. By any stretch of the imagination, man, was that a good look for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll tell you why, even if they won this game, Liam Cohen should have been sitting there with a headache. And this is something that I've been telling people about even when they were winning games where they weren't playing well. The fact is you can't run away from the grind. Your problems are still your problems. And we're going to discuss that and more here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars.
And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
That is of the NBA. I'm Tony Wiggins here. Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Here again, the Jaguars fall to 5-4. Had they gone to 6-3, these problems would still be problems. And the difference is, I'm going to give you a little bit. And I'm not making light of this situation because I grew up this way, but I'm going to give you let's just say we're on a 5-day bivouac. Bivouac is when you go out in the field and you got a rucksack and you're living in the woods, right? So on day 3, you're hungry. You still got 2 more days. You don't get anything to eat on day 3. You wake up day 4, whatever problems you were going to have, they still exist, but now you're dealing with hunger. As opposed to actually getting enough food to nourish your body on day 3. And now you wake up the next day, you don't got no food, but you got a full belly, so you're not as desperate. And you think you have more time and figure it out. The desperation changes when you lose, because now you actually have to deal with the problem that you're facing without the nourishment to know that you might have the strength to deal with all of the issues that are in front of you. Now you got to deal with not only the things that are in front of you, but how you feel right now, and you're weakened. And now the loss is that. The loss is the empty belly syndrome, where not only are you hurt, and everybody can talk about moving on and getting to the next game all you want to, but yeah, you're getting to the next game with a scar. And your situation is more desperate. And there's a little bit of hope that is gone, because now you have more ground to make up with seemingly less juice to do it with, right? And you got to somehow find a way to muster up the strength to beat a team that's probably better than you next week at home, even though it seems like it's been forever since the Jaguars have been at home. It's still going to be a tough game against the Chargers. And now you realize that there's nothing and no one that you can just walk in, and you got to do it every week, man. You can't duck the grind. Like I said, every single week with this team, I don't care who the opponent is, it's going to be very, very difficult. And mainly that's because they have a glaring weakness on both sides of the ball that you cannot fix overnight. The offensive line is better, but it's still not good enough. The defensive line is better in some ways, but it's still not good enough. It's personnel more than coaching, in my opinion. And I know that there are a lot of people that want the miracles. You want to snap your finger and all of these miracles happen. And it's quick to say that they're the same old Jaguars. Well, they are the same old Jaguars in a way, because a lot of the key players from the teams that played the last 2 years, they're still here, and you're expecting things out of them and you're not getting it. The main two, in my opinion, are Josh Hines-Allen on defense and Trevor Lawrence on offense. Trevor Lawrence with a little bit of Walker Little thrown into it. They're still depending on guys to have to do more than they've shown that they're capable of doing on a consistent basis. With Josh Hines-Allen, man, it's just a simple fact. There was a mirror put up yesterday. At least Trayvon made a couple of plays that neither one of them counted for anything, but you saw him flashing. With Josh Hines-Allen yesterday, he got a sack and a tackle for loss, but it just seems like when you think of what he's supposed to be, Houston Texans have 2 guys like that on their team. Either one of those guys, if you pair them with Trayvon Walker, would be a deadly duo. That's just it. And there's nothing else you can really say or talk about. Even with the quarterback situation, you got a backup quarterback over there that started spinning the ball, putting the ball exactly where it needed to be. Trevor didn't have any drops yesterday. He wasn't the reason that they lost, but I hope yesterday convinces everyone that he also can't consistently, and I say consistently because there's a game in Oakland where he played well, in Vegas where he played well enough to win the game. The Chiefs, well enough to drive them down and win the game late. All those things. There have been times when he's done it. But the thing with quarterback play is it's just too up and down. And I see too much stuff that they have to run from, hide from. And when they say play to their strengths, what they're really telling you is they're also going to play away from their weaknesses. And it comes down to a matter of, is this other team going to be able to force them into their weakness? Liam Cohen said yesterday, when it comes to the pass rush, you're not getting there with 4. You have to do something. And when you send somebody, it opens you up to some other possibilities. And that's to paraphrase what he said. Too many times now, when you send somebody has to make a play, or they have to know the play that they need to make to punish you for what you're trying to do. And too many times they punish the Jaguars for what they're trying to do. This is what it all comes down to. You have to push people into a discomfort. And then once you do that, that's the play call. That's the structure of it. Now you have to execute it. The Jaguars try to push people into their discomfort zone. Those guys make plays. That's when you get a blitz and a perfect screen call, and then they execute it. And on the other side of the ball, when teams try to push the Jaguars into their discomfort, and whenever the play has to be made, too many times it's somebody else making a play. We talked about having guys wide open. But then we talked about Parker being wide open for a big play, but Trevor has to scramble. Rightfully so. But why do you have to scramble? It's because you can't block anybody. And they're rushing with 4. On that one play, I think the linebacker actually came with it. You know, they knew they were going to have it open, but the linebacker got there quicker. No chip, no bump. Trevor's running, can't throw it while he's on the run. Don't get the play made. At some point, the grind, the thing that you're running from, or the smoke that you're dodging and ducking is you got to be able to deal with it. And that means your players have to be good enough. It's where Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter come in on offense. That's where Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray. I'm sure, just like everyone else is, and Liam kind of hinted at this, if they had those guys, sure, they could have made a play or two that maybe possibly could have won them the game or got them out of there. But at what point is it going to stop depending on that? Like, this is against the Houston Texans that were 3-5 coming into the game, or 2-5 coming into the game, whatever their record is. This is what that is, man. And this isn't, you're not talking about an 8-1 team that you're dealing with here. That at some point you're building this thing to not just be competitive, but to be good enough to win it all. They have a long, long way to go. Another offseason, another draft. It's the only way you're going to fix the trenches, man. You don't find starting quality defensive linemen just walking around. And I know somebody's going to bring up Christian Wilkins, but I'm telling you, I don't think that's going to happen. If it happens, it would have happened already. So a lot to iron out. We're not going to be able to get to everything in one day, but we'll be here all week. That's what we do. It sounds like I'm doing a comedy show, and y'all can probably think that yesterday was comedy, but we'll be here all week, as we always are. Another squad show this week, every single day here on Locked On Jaguars. Crossover episode come Thursday. And we're just going to keep hammering at it, man, but pointing out the facts of what's going on with this team without sugarcoating anything, because that's what we do here on Locked On Jaguars. Make sure y'all tap in also and catch me over on Locked On NFL. Locked On NFL twice a day. Tyler rolling early in the morning and me in the afternoon in the barbershop with a league-wide view using the clips from around our league and the local experts that cover the team so well here on our network, the number one network, the number one sports podcast network. Locked On NFL, we thank you for joining us. We don't take your time for granted. 30 minutes here with me today means an awful lot. We appreciate the everydayers. Thank y'all for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars.